Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to the Hebrew Woman Show. I am your host, Renaissance Woman, aka Ren Judah, here with my co-host Zell. What's up, Zell?
Hello.
We're not going to do anything too heavy today because I'm just I'm just, I feel a little better today, but I've been sick, Zell, and I'm
Oh,
just trying, I'm trying to mend. But there's so much that has happened, like literally last week when I was getting ready to do. As a matter of fact, I was getting ready to do the daily roast. The day after the morning they announced Lindsey Graham's death, and I had the slide deck all ready to go, and then I just started feeling, just life started lifing before I could even get a chance to do the show, right? Things just kept happening, and then I got sick. But anyway, we're going to try to just today I was like, you know what, just to kind of ease me back into things, I just wanted to kind of have conversation a little bit about all the different things that are going on. And and the reason why um people, there's listen, I always have this conversation with my mom about watching the news, and she's like, you need to watch the news because you got to know what's going on around you. And I absolutely do agree with that. And now that I'm going to start talking more about current events, I am going to have to keep up with the news. But I'm saying I'm a person who hasn't done that because of I'm sensitive, and a lot of these traumas that we experience, especially as a Black community, have a very negative impact on my health personally and my mood. And so I don't watch. I had got away from watching the news a lot for a while. Like I used to be a political junkie. You hear me? Like MSNBC, Fox News, all that, even talk radio. I used to be on it. And then
oh
just like in
wow.
the couple of years, I just didn't want to hear it. I just got tired of it. And that's why I want to talk about the cost of content disruptions, and just how all this content and news, how it disrupts our psyche and our health and our mental state, and that how sometimes you just have to cut it off for a while. And I think it's a good topic for today because one of the things that we, of course, we with our slideshow here is the purpose of this channel is for us to explore biblical principles. So I think even when it comes to how we perceive the world around us, I always try to look at things through a biblical lens. I always try to see, like, well, why is this happening right now? Or, when if it affects me spiritually, like how I'm feeling about that. What about you?
I am totally in agreement with you. I have learned over the course of time that, and we've discussed this a little bit, but life is hard and life can be challenging if you're not careful and you let the outside noise of the world get into your head. It can really throw you off. And going back
Mhm.
to the biblical principles helps me stay grounded. Why am I here? What is my purpose here? What can I do to help myself and those around me? And that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy even just doing the show. And I'm really grateful that you allowed me to come and sit with you and talk.
Well, I'm grateful that you are willing to do it with me because I always like to have that running dialogue about, because I know I'm not the only one experiencing these things, and sometimes you can feel like, am I tripping? Am I off? And then
Hmm.
it seems like things fall apart. And what does the coming to get back together look like? Or when you're going through your experiences and you're having your moment, your Job moment, or you're having you just times in your life where you go through difficulty. And for me, it just seems like we keep going through, content wise, we keep going through these difficult cycles as well, where we experience these communal tragedies, and just trying to process them as a group is hard because of course there's always infighting about what we should be doing, and who how we should be moving. And it's easy to see, about moving the speck out of somebody else's eye. It's always easy to should on other people. We do everything from talking about, like in the case of Nolan Wells' mom, how she should be processing, you know, and what does that look like? And I don't think it looks the same for all of us, but then there are people have legitimate concerns about Black people who they feel like reach a certain level where they step outside of the community, don't want to have anything to do with the community, and then when their community needs them, when that something happens to them, they want the community to come and support them, the Black
Right.
community. And
Right.
so this goes to our same slide. Examine yourselves. 2 Corinthians 13:5 says, "Examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith, prove your own selves. Know you not your own selves how Christ is in you, except you be reprobate." It is hard to when you are out in the world and you're moving around and all these things are happening and you're processing them. We don't want to take the time to sit and examine ourselves. And I say this all the time. This is where Buddhism and those other religions have a leg up on people who are
Hmm.
so-called studying and practicing biblical principles, because we have not been taught what Buddhism teaches. And this does not mean I'm saying be a Buddhist, because I believe that if you read the scripture, it tells you to meditate. We just don't teach people how to meditate. And we don't understand that part of meditation is sitting in those feelings that you want to escape, allowing yourself to feel. And so instead of allowing ourselves to feel, we seek forms of escape, whether it's eating, drinking, smoking, sex, drugs, rock and roll, social media. There are people who they cannot stay off the internet. Porn addiction. There are whatever your form of escape is. Literally, shopping, gambling. People, we want to escape from that, and it takes time to learn how to actually examine yourself, how to sit in that and to feel and to exist, because it's uncomfortable, first of all, because it requires you to sit down somewhere alone without any distractions and actually not just feel. You have to think about what you're feeling. Why am I feeling this? When did this first start happening? When have I felt this way before? Because a lot of times you'll find, especially if it's something that you're really having difficulty overcoming, it is a trauma from the past. And your adult self is still trying to reconcile how to deal with those psychological events.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
and so what you're trying to do, you're trying to train ourselves to think biblically and not emotionally. Not saying you don't process your emotions, because part of meditation is that you deal with the emotion. Okay, I'm angry because what does the Bible say? Ephesians 4:26, be angry but sin not. So I'm pissed off. I gotta examine that. 2 Corinthians 13:5. I gotta examine what is going on with me. And then it's easy, it's so easy, Zell, to get frustrated because of all the things that are going on top of the things that are going on in the world. You got to try to make a living. And a lot of times there's just a lot of dishonesty about the numbers and what the economy really looks like, especially if you're on social media. And I think it has led to this younger generation being very delusional about what money should look like, what kind of money they should make. That they don't, thinking that they're going to make $200,000 or $300,000. The average American, that means people who have been working longer than you've been into existence, honey, are not making
Hmm.
$100,000 a year.
Yep.
So, what does that look like? And collectively, what do we do about it? I think that's a real question when we talk about the minimum wage and the cost of living, and how realistic we are about what's happening in this country in terms of healthcare, in terms of your ability to feed and clothe yourself and your family. And it's just a game where, like, for a time, people would, I would say not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. I get it. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. But I do think there comes a time where when you just constantly get tired of dealing with the racism, the harassment, the discrimination, where you just really want to opt out of the game. And I tell you, I feel it. you know.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have so many of us, we have skills that we don't even realize we have, and we allow other people to use those skills to their benefit, and we're not using them for our benefit.
That's true.
Um, we need to really think about that. And it's interesting you were saying what you were saying, because what I was thinking about is how, you know, it's so easy when you never stop and evaluate yourself, and you get caught up in the the things of the world and what's going on in society, and before you know it, you can get caught up in a whirlwind effect and wonder, wait, how did I end up over here? Why did I end up so far away from what I was trying to
Hmm.
do? Because you start getting caught up in what's going on everywhere else, and at some point you got to come back, and say, okay, let me reevaluate this. What am I trying to do? Is what I'm doing in alignment with what my goals are, and where I'm trying to get to? And I don't think sometimes people stop and think about that, because it's so easy to get caught up um, in the tide of what else is going on in the world. It really truly is, and you don't even realize it's happening. Because what made me think about is when you're out swimming. If you're swimming in the ocean,
Hmm.
and before you know it, when you're out in the ocean and you feel that current, and that current will take you out somewhere no matter how hard you swim. But if you before you know it, you're caught in the current, and you
Yeah.
drifting off somewhere and don't know what happened, and now you're in trouble. And it's like that's basically what happens. You get caught up in something, and next thing you know, you way off your square, you're off in left field and don't know how you got there, and now you're in trouble. You have to kind of start all over again, and let me get back to where what I know is solid ground.
And that's hard. And I like that you said that, like just trying to find your way back to solid ground, because I do think the things of this world, the events of the world can lead you adrift. And you just feel like you're just out here floating and you're like, I don't even know where land is. Like you that the disorientation of being lost at sea and you don't know which direction land is in.
Mhm.
And I think life can knock you down like that, where you don't feel like you know what is real. And this is why I say, if I don't know anything, I know that God is real. So that means I don't care if I lose everything and I have to live outside. I know as long as I wake up, I can start over. I can begin again, because just like here with our slide here, our first assignment is kingdom and not comfort. Our
Mhm.
primary assignment is on the Umar side. You say 3 times, kingdom, not comfort. Our first assignment is kingdom, not comfort. You know, we we don't belong here. Our citizenship is in heaven, not in this world. That's Philippians 3:20. And we have a divine mission. We are here to represent his kingdom, not to conform to this world. That's Matthew 5:14. And when we get caught up so much in what we think it's supposed to look like, even our own selves, our own egos, well, I've been a whatever all my life, or I've done this, or I do this, and I am a public official, or I am this and that. That is not your calling. Well, it may be your calling to be whatever, but all I'm saying is that's not your primary mission. If you are a person who believes in the scripture, yours is to seek the kingdom first, and then all the things will be added unto you. So what may be added unto you, it may be being a public official, it may be being a commentator, or whatever you do, social worker, whatever your jam is, right? But we got to make sure
Mhm.
that we are putting him first. And when I get to the point, and I'm starting to understand this in a real way in my life right now, that when I put my own idea of what I should be or where I should be ahead of him, that becomes my God. I become so obsessed with
Mhm.
chasing that position, chasing that money, that I think I'm nothing without those. Like, how people, they were talking about how a lot of people found themselves being displaced. You have a lot of people in their 50s, because of technology or whatever other reasons now. People are are being forced to retire, or they're just being furloughed or whatever. So you have a generation of older people looking to start over and build whole new careers. And it's like, well, what if I've done accounting all my life? I don't know. Like, I could find another accounting job, but sometimes the place you were became part of your identity. Or what if you're in a field that is obsolete now, or you can't do it anymore health wise? It's that starting over and trying to figure it out. And that it became, you did it so long, it became part of your identity, that now you feel like you're having an identity crisis. And I feel like that happened to me when I left that first toxic job. I was there so long, I felt like it was who I was, and it's like, oh my
Yeah.
god, I can't imagine not doing that type of work. But ultimately, there's always, you can always begin again, and just trying to remember that, um, 2 Timothy 2:12 says, "We endure as strangers, so we can reign with Him." You know, talk about that enduring as strangers, because I do feel like, as a Black person in America, we're still treated like strangers, no matter how. If some of us are, our families have been here longer than some of the white people who have been here, and
Mhm.
they are received, they are welcome, they don't have any problem getting jobs, they don't have to worry about the AI screening them out. And this is how I like, for me, it's just the validation that we know we are those people. So just that disorientation of being a stranger in this strange land there. What do you think about that?
Mm. I know. I mean, it's like I was thinking about what you're saying, that we endure as strangers. And why would we endure? Do we get from enduring as strangers in a strange land? And it makes me think about development of character, development of purpose. It redefines, it helps us to be reminded of who we are and why we're here, why, what we're supposed to be doing. Because if we get here and we think this is it, and this is all there is, and then we lose sight of where we're going and how things will be, then it's like, and I think, and to me, it helps me to drown out the world. This very thing
Hmm.
helps me to drown out the world and helps me to focus on what I'm supposed to be doing. Because when you feel like, oh, this is home, this is where we're gonna be, this is how it's supposed to be, and then you start getting a little too comfortable, and you don't want to leave your cars, you don't want to leave your house, you want to be, this
Hmm.
is where you want to be, because this is happiness, but this is not
Yeah,
home.
yeah,
This is
that's
not
true.
where you're supposed to be.
You form these attachments to these things and these
Hmm.
ideas, and none of that is going with you. From the dust you came to the dust you'll return. So when you can get to the point where you can free yourselves from the attachment to anything of this world, a job, a house, a car, whatever it is you have grown attached to, even your own identity,
Hmm.
that is not who you are. You are a child. You are meant to be here to do His will, to serve Him. And, what does that look like? And for me, I always go back to this. I always go back to Titus 2, 1 through 5, because this is for, people can try to read it any way they want. It just doesn't, it talks about the men, then it goes down to the women, but the characteristics on here is for everybody, everything listed, because the men are not to be given to too much wine either. They are supposed to be teachers of good things as well. They're not supposed to be drunkards. They're supposed to be sound in faith and in charity. You are too. That's why it says that the aged women likewise, that all of us, that we want to try to embody these attributes that we see laid out in Titus. And then when we talk about Galatians, getting into the fruits of the spirit. So this is kind of, for me, I always think about that when you say, so, well, who are we supposed to be?
Hmm.
What
Exactly.
scripture come to your mind for you when you think about that, what you were just saying about your identity
Ooh.
and who you're supposed to be here?
Actually, I think there are a couple of things I think about. Number one, as because I'm a woman, definitely Proverbs 31. And I
Mm-hmm.
also think about things. I think about the fruits of the spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and do I display those when I don't want to. I don't want to feel like I overshadow you know, what's supposed to be presented, because we're supposed to be a light that's set upon a hill. We're
That's
supposed to be
right.
examples that others are supposed to follow. Can I be that? Am I that when other people, am I that when other people see me? Because I want to be that. I want to be a positive influence. Um, and that is probably the one thing that concerns me. Am I doing the right thing? Um, and then it does concern me when I do something that I think maybe I didn't have the right attitude, or I didn't, even if the other person thought I didn't, come to them correctly. It doesn't matter if it was right or wrong as much as how I maybe made the other person feel. But those are the two things I think about, are the fruits of the spirit, along with Proverbs 31. I always think about, being genuine, and
Mhm.
actually taking everything that I know. Am I utilizing all of my gifts? I think about, the gifts that I have. Am I appreciative of those things? Am I showing that I appreciate the opportunity to have life here? I have life. What am I doing with it? And
Mhm.
um and so that's why a lot of the things that sometimes when I struggle with, like my weight, or how I eat, or
Yeah.
the reason I haven't just given up on that and walked away from it. Because some people do. Some people say, "Well, I like to eat this, and this is what I'm going to eat." No, because I look at it as I was given a body, and I'm a steward over this, and this is how I build character. And it's my job to take care of this body and to be an example to others that are trying to take care of their body, of how we can do it. And so maybe I can show them, hey, how to persevere. If nothing else, how do you persevere and keep trying and not give up? And so it's just, so I can't just give up on certain things. I can't just stop trying, because somebody else might need to know, how do you succeed? You may have to try 1,000 times, but then on that 1,001, you succeed, and
Yeah, you
so
might. You'll get there. You keep trying. It ain't over until the casket
exactly.
drops. And I'm glad you said
Exactly.
that, because that's where I am. Like, I really started feeling bad about all the weight I gained.
Mm,
This is the heaviest I've ever been in my whole life. And I can say I just found myself, like I said, being in the toxic work environment, stress eating, trying to
yeah.
cope with the stress, trying to cope with, you know, there is something I very traumatic about being in a hostile work environment, being discriminated against, being
Mhm.
harassed, dealing with retaliation, to have somebody target you. And I could not like find my way. I felt like I could not find my way. And it just
Mm.
like, I was in a hole. And so now I'm ready to start coming out of that place and trying to rebuild. And so I love that you brought up
Well, I'll
Galatians.
tell you this.
Hmm.
I'll tell you this. The one thing that I have learned is stress is a much, much um, bigger issue when it comes to weight gain and overeating and weight gain than we all realize. Because when I sit back and I actually look at when I've gained weight versus when I've lost weight,
Hmm.
I do not eat when I'm at ease, when
Yep.
I'm not stressed. I do not eat. My weight naturally comes down. I don't feel that push towards hunger. I mean, I just, it's not there, and the weight just naturally comes off, and it's easier for me to do the things that I need to do, and to live a healthier lifestyle when I'm not under such long-term stress. And
Yeah,
and
and John
yeah.
Hopkins here, let me say, it just says that that your body, you can, we can post this. It says, how does stress affect your appetites? Studies show that women with high chronic stress levels tend to engage in emotional eating. In addition to psychological responses to stress, there may be physiological responses. During a stressful event, the body releases cortisol, a hormone that helps the body protect itself. However, if cortisol levels are elevated for a prolonged period of time, such as during repeated and constant stressors, this can lead to increased food consumption, fat storage, and weight gain. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh no,
But
you're right on point. I'm glad you actually did, because I mean that to me, when I started realizing that, that has changed my view toward to start, because there have been times stuff that I know I never really like. I've never been one big on sweets, and
mhm,
over the past, I'll probably say over the past 6 months, for some reason, I have wanted sweets more than ever before. And and I started looking. I was like, wait, why am I am not a sweets person. Why am I sitting here eating this stuff? And I've gained weight. And I've looked at, my job, my career in general is just a stressful career. And
mhm,
so, and then I've had a lot of stress just over the course of my life. And I really do have been able to my ups, I can definitely see how that had happened with stressful, extreme stress in my life. I think I've always had a certain baseline of stress, but then when things calm down and I can see that those are the times when the weight comes off. So now for me, one of the things I'm really trying to do is learn how to manage my stress. And that's going to be simple things like, which we could talk about it one day, things like making sure you get a good night's sleep, which that is not always as easy when you're
no,
stressed,
cause stress will
but
keep you up.
it will. Oh,
And
and
then
it
you're
definitely
taking
will.
sleep aids and yeah, and so I can definitely say that my weight gain over these last, and I was looking at it first, I was saying the 18 months, but now at this separate part, I'm going on 2 months into this period. This is almost 20 months of non-stop stress from an employer, non-stop pressure, anxiety, unknowing, not knowing what's going to happen, being in limbo. I the anxiety attacks, just not feeling good, constantly chest pain, having to go to the hospital, like just, and I'm like, this shit is going to kill you if you don't do something. So I'm just at a point where I said this week I will be out walking, and I'm just being transparent because I know I'm not the only one going through these type of things, and I want people to know you're not alone. And if you need to ever talk, I'm going to even start a support group for us if we get enough people that message. I will definitely start a support line for a private chat where we can talk and just and everybody can remain anonymous too, because people don't want to, and this is just a shame, you can't even support groups online you try to create. You have to worry about people trying to secretly record and do all that kind of stuff. I want to create a safe space for people who are experiencing workplace trauma to come, just kind of like AA style, come and talk, like, hey, I am such and such, and I am a victim of a toxic work environment. Like, you need that community, because one of the good things for me about being in Focus St. Louis was as we went around and we were talking to people, and I met all kinds of women, other women, people finding out that you're in Focus, coming and talking to you, and then we start talking about, because I'm on LinkedIn, and I post content there as well about navigating hostile workspaces. And the people that reach out to me and share that they are experiencing a toxic work environment, it lets me know that this is more pernicious than we believe. There is really something going on in our work culture that we really need to work on creating a safe place for people to not only discuss it, but to actually feel empowered to collectivize and understand that a toxic work environment doesn't just hurt you, whether your employer realizes it or not. It hurts them. It hurts all of us. It increased medical costs. It increased unemployment. Increased people being not being able to pay for housing, and then so there you are, people that you have certain parties always talking about people being on the public dole, but a lot of the things that you do to people in these workplaces contribute to them being ill. Thus obesity. What comes with obesity? Diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
high blood
Oh,
pressure, heart attack, stroke. You
oh,
know,
I totally agree. I totally agree.
so I don't know, but my main thing is to, I just try to examine myself, and for me, I just always feel like no matter what, I always know I am not in this position because I did the wrong thing. It's because I told the truth, because I stand up and I do the right thing, because I believe what the Bible says to do, that we are to cry aloud and spare not. I'm not going to sit up and when there's wrongdoing going on and be silent. I'm not going to do that. And number one, because I'm mandated. You have a even when you have certain jobs, even in their own rules, they have a duty to report. And it's nothing worse than not reporting and not being supported. So I get it, and I know people feel like you can't. You really feel like you can't win when you're in this kind of situation. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Because if you have a duty to report, you can get in trouble for not reporting. So I don't know.
Exactly.
But I was going to say, I love that you brought up Galatians 5:22, and that is your kind of go-to when you think about who you're supposed to be, or what you try to look like when you show up. And I think I am going to add this to our deck, because Galatians 5:22 started verse 19 now, and so the Bible is very clear on the type of behaviors that you are not supposed to participate in. And that is why I do not like when people try to gaslight you into, oh, well, such and such does this and such, you can do it. No, you cannot, because the Bible is clear. Galatians chapter 5, starting at verse 19. Now, the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanliness. And when we talk about uncleanliness, they're not just talking about your body. It's talking outside of your body. It's the inside of your body. Are you eating unclean as well? Right? Uncleanliness covers so many different things when it comes to the Bible. Your behavior, all of these things, because this is unclean behavior: fornication, adultery, lasciviousness. Y'all know that nasty person. Idolatry, man worship. Some of you all worship yourselves more than you worship God. And the Bible says that men will become lovers of themselves more than lovers of God. You cannot go to some people's page and they are not filming themselves, pictures of themselves. I even seen some people that are so obsessed with social media, if they are crying, they have to take pictures of themselves crying. You understand? So idolatry, witchcraft. So for people running around practicing witchcraft, you think that's okay? The Bible is explicit that you cannot do that. Hatred, that is another thing. Running around being hateful, hating people. Like there is a time for everything. But when the Bible's talking about hatred in this sense, it's talking about your behavior towards your people, your community, and you harboring hatred in your heart and jealousies and envies. What kind of behaviors does that lead you to? Variance, emulations, like these. You could almost do a show on each of these traits, because variance, and emulations, wrath. And notice that hatred and wrath, strife, these things are they're all in the same family. Seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such the like. You could literally do a whole show on just verse 20 and 21. Okay. Let me, as a matter of fact, let me make sure. Let me put this on the screen so people can read along. Because I mean, like that is listen. That is a lot right there. And we're going to do that too, because I think it is important. There we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So let me get back to my trusty dusty screen here. And it should be big enough.
Yes.
Okay. We left at revelings and such like, of which I tell you before, as I have also told you in the past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of heaven. So if you are doing any of these above that we just covered, you are not going to inherit the kingdom of heaven. You can't be out here being envious, murderous, drunk, reveling, hateful, practicing witchcraft, adultery, all of these things, right? All the things. You will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. But the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they are Christ, and they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. If we live in the spirit, let us also walk in the spirit. So we have to crucify our flesh. So,
Hmm.
well, these affections and lusts, so that we can live in the spirit. What does that look like? How can you do that if you don't examine yourself?
Hmm.
If you don't do Second Corinthians 13 and 5, if you're not stopping to reflect and look at yourself, on the little river band side of the game, sit down, take a look at yourself. I've heard about the lonesome loser, and there's nothing more lonely and being in a state of loserdom than living walking contrary to the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Hallelujah! There you go. you know, so
Oh
I
yeah.
like, and then for you said Proverbs 31.
Hmm.
That is, I think everybody, that's the first thing that everybody goes to. And I
Yeah.
don't think that they really look at it and look at the attributes that she embodied, right? It's just, oh,
Yeah.
Proverbs, I want to be a Proverbs 31 woman. But when you start getting into the behavior that she exhibited,
Yeah. Yeah.
now
Because
see
it
that
were-
that's a
and see
that's
to
a
me,
mammy. They'll call her a mammy today. The Proverbs 31 woman would be called a mammy today.
because I mean, what to me, what the proverb when I read that passage and what it makes me think about is it's like it takes what we're talking about in Galatians 5, and it's a working. It's kind of like, what does that look like in action? What are you doing? What taking all of everything that we've talked about, and as you're walking through your day and you're moving through your household and you're going to work and you're dealing with your kids, you're dealing with your husband, what and you're dealing with your community, what does that look like? And to me, that is what Proverbs 31 is describing. As a woman,
Mm-hmm.
this is what my life should look like as I'm moving through when I'm and even just me by myself, what type of activities am I doing on a day-to-day basis? And that's to me what I'm thinking about.
And
How
see,
it should. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, no, I'm saying, and I believe I see that in you. You're not selfish,
Oh.
and like, because you can just lead with 12. Like, that is an unselfish state, and you do that for your children. You do that for your husband. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were saying.
No, 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 no. Continue.
No, just like, just talking about this, the being in the state that you're in. So, like, for you, when you look at Proverbs 31, what, like, when you're looking at that again, like, I just want you to finish going into, like, what does it make you seek out and try to embody? Well.
Like I said, it's like it makes me compare how I walk and my relationships with my children, with my friends, with my family. It makes me think about, okay, how do I move
Mm-hmm.
throughout life? And if I'm looking at that and I'm looking at it in parallel to what, because see, this is the thing. Before we get to Proverbs 31, if we look at everything else that we're taught, okay, those all this stuff works together. And you
Mm-hmm.
should be able to do the fruits of the spirit, and your result should be Proverb
Mm-hmm.
31. You don't start with Proverbs 31 and then get the other stuff. You're going to start with what the fruits of the spirit talk about and everything else that we're learning, and then when you internalize these things, what that
Mhm.
looks like in practice should be what Proverbs 31 is. And that's how you know if you're really kind of getting it right.
Yeah, I think we have such a spirit of selfishness, and I that is
Yeah.
embedded into the culture. And people want to just make it a race thing, but it is actually, when I say the culture, I'm specifically talking about American culture, because from K through 12, and I can even remember one of the things that kindergarten teachers always try to teach the children early is autonomy. Like, autonomy is bred into you all, and not just kindergarten, but I just could say K through 12, just being autonomous. The idea that you're supposed to be self-sustaining. And I do think that there are things where you do practice autonomy, but in the pushing of autonomy, there was a total neglect for community. So
Hmm.
people don't know how to be in community with one another. They don't know how to be in healthy familial relationships, because everything is just the surround as it revolves around the self. And so this is where we can get into talking about how people man worship, and they're lovers of themselves rather than lovers of God. What does verse 12 here tell us to do? It says about her, she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. So that means that this is not a selfish woman.
Hmm.
She's not self-absorbed, and it's not just about him. Like, and but I will say this: there's nothing wrong with it being about him, because that is her counterpart, her spouse. But
But see what I was saying before? If
mhm,
you have all of these other things in place, this is what it'll look like. This is
exactly,
what type of woman she will be. It's not telling her to do this. It's saying this is how you're telling this mother has told her son
that's
this is
right.
what that woman will look like.
This is what it shows up as. If she has these attributes, if she is following the law, statutes, and commandments, you will see her doing good and not evil to you all the days of your life. But not only will you
Exactly.
see her doing that to you, she's going to exhibit that towards your children and the people in your community. And you'll see it as you go further down Proverbs 31. And it talks about her willingness to work with her hands, and well, she seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. So, you working hard and building things for your family, and she is like a merchant's ships. She bringeth food from afar. The cooking and cleaning, you are being berated for these things, for being a
Mm.
worker in your home, for providing in your home. I'm not a slave. The idle mind is the devil's workshop. There is nothing wrong with you. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household and portion to her maidens. So we live in a time where so many things are automated and automatic and simplified. You don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn to feed and clothe your household. And you don't have a maid, and you aren't living off the land the way they did. You don't have to go out and do and hunt and butcher your meat. You can go to the Schnucks and buy it and come home. So all I'm saying is, like,
Exactly.
we're really exaggerating, and our lives are so much easier compared to the people who are predecessors. Okay, she
Oh yeah.
considereth the field and buy it. With the fruit of her hands, she has planted a vineyard. This is an industrious woman.
Hmm.
She ain't sitting around talking about soft life.
Hmm.
And
She knows
listen,
how to make a decision. She can think logically and
exactly.
make sound decisions based on what she sees and knows and understands.
I think the
She is
soft
not
life
dingy.
culture, hmm,
She's not dingy. she thinks
exactly.
logically.
She's
She can
smart.
make sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you're not going to be out doing these things and be a dummy, right? Um,
exactly.
and here's the thing about soft life that I think is a total fiction, and it's nonsense the way it's toxic in how it's being presented. It's the idea that if you're doing any kind of anything that's work, then you're living in a ghetto, or you're a slave, or you're all this just toxic Bible that runs antithetical to the Bible, right? It's an
Yeah.
antithesis of what is being taught in the Bible. You need to understand a lot of people talking about that soft life, they're not living the way that it's a show because
Yeah.
it doesn't even make sense. If you're first of all, you're not a slave, you're not living like a slave, and even try to compare what you're doing now to what your forefathers went through, I think is just a is disrespectful. But
Yep.
I think that there's limits to everything. There's balance to everything. You know if somebody's using you. You know what's healthy, and if you don't know what's healthy and what's not healthy, then you need to go back and it's time to examine yourself again. You need to reevaluate some things. But the things of this world, if that becomes more important to you than your relationships and the people you are around and that you love and you care for, there's something off. You know, this woman, she's out, she perceives her merchandise as good. Her candles go out not by, like, she just was all, and those times too, they were just more hardworking than us. And it wasn't, and it's because they didn't have choice. They ate what they planted, they lived off the land, and you were overseeing your staff. You had to have many hands to maintain an existence when you own land and you're doing the type of things that they did. But it's like nobody says she did all this stuff in one day. I think people just want to exaggerate everything. But she also was a community giver. She did community service. She stretched her hand out to the poor. She reached out her hands to the needy. So she wasn't a selfish, grasping woman. She wasn't afraid of the snow for her household. She got out there and she did what she needed to do and made sure her household were all clothed in scarlet. She made sure she looked good. Her husband is known in the gates, and he sitteth among elders in the land. They're
So
like,
he's somebody. So she's not married to just anybody.
exactly. She ain't got no bum. He is a, and so people like, when you understand when your man is called an elder, he has wisdom. The people in the community are coming to him for, that might be his role. He may be an advisor. And she keeping the household running. I'm sure he's weighing in on things, but she's playing her part.
And she does not want some man that's not able to do what he need to do. She's not even going for that.
Are your children raising up and calling you blessed, and your husband also? So
exactly.
I think that favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised.
So it's not all about what she look like.
It's not. So yeah, I kind of think about that too, because we get a lot of, this whole surgery culture. Either you don't need to go have surgery to be a virtuous woman. You don't need a BBL to be a virtuous woman, okay? If you get one, that's you. I'm not saying that you're sinning. I don't know. That's between you and your guy. You'll have to figure that out. But
and see, we got to also remember this is advice for men. So a lot of these men, just because she got a BBL, don't get stuck. Don't stop at the BBL. You need to keep looking past that.
Yeah, what else is there? Because don't come back later trying to whine and telling him we have to sit and listen to you complain about this non-virtuous woman because you couldn't get past the flesh.
Exactly.
So
the men's this, because we while we as women are striving to be virtuous women, these instructions are actually for the men. The men should be looking for these things. And I wonder how many men are.
And there are many scriptures in the Bible that tell you how a man is supposed to behave. So you understand as women what he looks like when he shows up. This is not a one-way street, regardless to what a lot of people want to try to present to you. That is false, and you can look at Titus, and that just shows you that's just a little piece of it. Proverbs is dedicated to giving young men advice.
Yep.
It's a book of wisdom for men, which women you can definitely glean from it as well. But so don't act like there aren't guidelines and there aren't rules. There is behavior for the deacons, the elders. As a matter of fact, that when you got into when you rose in leadership within the faith, you couldn't have more than one wife. So there's other people in certain positions could have more than one wife. But if you were in a leader, a bishop, for example, you couldn't have multiple wives because you had a flock, and you would not be able to deal with all that stuff, all them women and children, and attend to this flock in the way that you
Mm-hmm.
need to. So and so for people who are dragging people, we do that here in this society about plural marriage. When you get done at the end of the day, it's not against the Bible. The Bible has guidelines for polygyny and what it should look like. If you know,
Mm-hmm.
so there is that. I think, we just live, people just have different ideas of what that's supposed to look like, but we're not going to, that's a conversation for another day, because I am of the mind that not only do I think that it's not against the law biblically, I think people just need to live and let live. If that's not your cup of tea, you don't do it, but mind your own business and leave other people alone. Because I see some people, I know a young lady that's in one of my groups, as a matter of fact, they are in they practice polygyny, and there's a difference between polygamy and polygyny. And polygyny is one man with more than one wife, and no, the women do not deal with each other.
Right.
So but anyway, my point is, as long as you, for me, as long as you follow the law, statutes, and commandments, I don't have nothing to say about how you run your household or what you do in yours. We will be continuing our leadership workshop. Y'all just have to bear with me. Like I said, I'm just being transparent. I'm going through a lot, so sometimes it's just really hard to come
Yeah.
on here, but I'm trying to make this part of my walk, because I know the Most High, He don't have it. You go through things for no reason. I know I'm gonna come out on the other side of this better, for whatever He has a plan for me, right? So I just wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
but I really just wanted to have a conversation today. And you see where it took us. Look at, we're out 51 minutes. It's time to wrap up the show. The
Oh yeah.
conversation was so good, but thanks for joining us, guys. I'm just going to end it here, because I think we've covered a pretty good topic today, and I think it's just enough time. And so I just wanted to kind of just make sure I get on here and do my labor of love, and if I have it in me, I will do my best to get back sometime, maybe tomorrow. Who knows? If the mood hits me tonight, we'll do that next chapter of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It is hard to think about leadership and what that's supposed to look like when you are going through, but you still have to do your work. You still have to grind. You still have to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Even when everything else ain't going right, you still got to say all praises to the Most High and His only begotten Son. Zell, you got any final words for him?
No, I think I pretty much said everything.
Thank you. Our first assignment is kingdom, not comfort. Shabbat shalom, and thanks for watching.